Hey guys, it's me again, Miss Benson. Alright, this is going to be the solutions video for the bank balance sheet practice worksheet that I left for you that has 4 questions about a sample bank balance sheet. All 4 of these questions have the exact same bank balance sheet that they're dealing with. I just put it on the worksheet 4 different times in case you wanted to make some notations or some scratch work on it. Now question 1 says, if the Federal Reserve increases the reserve requirement from 10% to 20%, how is this going to affect required reserves and excess reserves? So before, when the reserve requirement was 10%, the bank had to hold on to 100 and they could lend out the other 900. Now that the reserve requirement is 20%, the bank has to hold on to 200 and it can only lend out 800. Now number 2 says if the bank sells $2,000 worth of bonds and uses this money to pay some of their shareholders dividends, how is this going to affect the bank balance sheet? Instead of holding on to $5,000 worth of bonds, they've just sold some of these, so now they're only going to be holding on to $3,000 worth of bonds. Now with this $2,000 that they have from selling bonds, they're going to put it towards a liability, towards the owner's equity that they owe. So remember how we said bank balance sheets have to balance? Well, if we're subtracting $2,000 from the left-hand side on assets for securities, which are bonds, then we have to also subtract $2,000 from the other side, and that means that the amount they owe those shareholders is going to be less since they kind of made a payment toward them. So instead of owing $20,000, now they only owe $18,000. The third question asks, how would this bank balance sheet change or be affected if Julia deposits $1,000 into her checking account with a reserve requirement of 10%? Now, if she puts $1,000 into a checking account, that's going to increase demand deposits from $1,000 to $2,000. Of that $1,000 that she put in, the bank has to keep 10% or 100, and the bank can lend out 90% or 900. That's going to increase required reserves up to 200. And the other 900 they can put in the bucket of excess reserves, so that's going to make that bucket increase by 900. So now there's going to be 1,800 in excess reserves that they can loan out. Now for number 4, suppose that Drew comes along to the bank and instead of depositing money into his checking account, he's going to deposit money into his savings account. Now when Drew deposits $1,000 into his savings account, this is going to go into other deposits on the liabilities side. So it's going to increase other deposits from $5,000 to $6,000. Remember that the required reserve ratio does not apply to other accounts like savings accounts. It only applies to checking accounts or demand deposits. So none of this $1,000 that Drew put into the bank in his savings account has to be held on hand. So this entire $1,000 can go right into the bucket of excess reserves for the bank. Alrighty guys, hopefully you're not getting too confused with bank balance sheets. As you work with these, you start to get a feel for what happens on the sheet when something happens in the story. Just try to keep it straight and organized in your head as you work through these practice examples. Alrighty guys, see you later.